Good morning. This is Ron. Welcome to Story Time. And this is Ron. This is Thursday, and it is, what is the date today? July 20th. July 20th. And we're on Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. No one likes feeling stupider than the next person. The trick, then, is to make your victims feel smart. And not just smart, but smarter than you are. Once convinced of this, they will never suspect that you may have an ulterior motive. The feeling that someone else is more intelligent than we are is almost intolerable. We usually try to justify it in different ways. He only has book knowledge, whereas I have real knowledge. Her parents paid for her to get a good education. If my parents had as much money, if I had been as privileged, he's not as smart as he thinks. Last but not least, she may know her narrow little field better than I do, but beyond that, she's really not smart at all. Even Einstein was a boob outside physics. Given how important the idea of intelligence is to most people's vanity, it is critical never inadvertently to insult or impugn a person's brain power. That is an unforgivable sin. But if you can make this iron rule work for you, it opens up all sorts of avenues of deception. Subliminally reassure people that you are more intelligent than you are, that they are more intelligent than you are, or even that you are a bit of a moron, and you can run rings around them. The feeling of intellectual superiority you give them will disarm their suspicion muscles. In 1865, the Prussian counselor Otto von Bismarck wanted Austria to sign a certain treaty. The treaty was totally in the interests of Prussia and against the interests of Austria, and Bismarck would have to strategize to get the Austrians to agree to it. But the Austrian negotiator, Count Blome, was an avid card player. His particular game was quinze, and he often said that he could judge a man's character by the way he played quinze. Bismarck knew of this saying of Blome's. The night before the negotiations were to begin, Bismarck innocently engaged Blome in a game of quinze. The Prussian would later write, "That was the very last time I ever played quinze. I played so recklessly that everyone was astonished. I lost several thousand thalers, the currency of the time, but I succeeded in fooling Blome, for he believed me to be more venturesome than I am, and I gave way." Besides appearing reckless, Bismarck also played the witless fool, saying ridiculous things and bumbling about with a surplus of nervous energy. All this made Blome feel he had gathered valuable information. He knew that Bismarck was aggressive. The Prussian already had that reputation, and the way he played had confirmed it. And aggressive men, Blome knew, can be foolish and rash. Accordingly, when the time came to sign the treaty, Blome thought he had the advantage. A heedless fool like Bismarck, he thought, is incapable of cold-blooded calculation and deception. So he only glanced at the treaty before signing it. He failed to read the fine print. As soon as the ink was dry, a joyous Bismarck exclaimed in his face, "Well, I could have never have believed that I should find an Austrian diplomat willing to sign that document." The Chinese have a phrase, masquerading as a swine to kill the tiger. This refers to an ancient hunting technique in which the hunter clothes himself in the hide and snout of a pig and mimics its grunting. The mighty tiger thinks a pig is coming his way and lets it get close, savoring the prospect of an easy meal. But it is the hunter who has the last laugh. Masquerading as a swine works wonders on those who, like tigers, are arrogant and overconfident. The easier they think it is to prey on you, the more easily you can turn the tables. This trick is also useful if you are ambitious, yet find yourself low in the hierarchy. Appearing less intelligent than you are, even a bit of a fool, is the perfect disguise. Look like a harmless pig, and no one will believe you harbor dangerous ambitions. They may even promote you since you seem so likable and subservient. Claudius, before he became Emperor of Rome, and the Prince of France, who later became Louis XIII, used this tactic when those above them suspected they might have designs on the throne. By playing the fool as young men, they were left alone. When the time came for them to strike and to act with vigor and decisiveness, they caught everyone off guard. Intelligence is the obvious quality to downplay, but why stop there? Taste and sophistication rank close to intelligence on the vanity scale. Make people feel they are more sophisticated than you are, and their guard will come down. As Arnold and Slack knew, an air of complete naivete can work wonders. Those fancy financiers were laughing at them behind their backs. But who laughed loudest in the end? In general, then, always make people believe they are smarter and more sophisticated than you are. They will keep you around because you make them feel better about themselves, and the longer you are around, the more opportunities you will have to deceive them. Reversal. To reveal the true nature of your intelligence rarely pays. You should get in the habit of downplaying it at all times. If people inadvertently learn the truth that you are actually much smarter than you look, they will admire you more for being discreet than for making your brilliant show. At the start of your climb to the top, of course, you cannot play too stupid. You may want to let your bosses know in a subtle way that you're smarter than the competition around you. As you climb the ladder, however, you should, to some degree, try to dampen your brilliance. There is, however, one situation where it pays to do the opposite, when you can cover up a deception with a show of intelligence. In matters of smarts, as in most things, appearances are what count. If you seem to have authority and knowledge, people will believe what you say. This can be very useful in getting you out of a scrape. The art dealer Joseph Duveen was once attending a soiree at the New York home of a tycoon to whom he had recently sold a Dürer painting at a high price. Among the guests was a young French art critic who seemed extremely knowledgeable and confident. Wanting to impress this man, the tycoon's daughter showed him the Dürer, which had not yet been hung. The critic studied it for a time and then finally said, I don't think the Dürer is right." He followed the young woman as she hurried to tell her father what he had said, and listened as the magnate, deeply unsettled, turned to Duveen for reassurance. Duveen just laughed. "How very amusing," he said. "Do you realize, young man, that at least 20 other art experts here and in Europe have been taken in too, and have said that painting isn't genuine, and now you've made the same mistake?" His confident tone and air of authority intimidated the Frenchman, who apologized for his mistake. Duveen knew that the art market was flooded with fakes, and that many paintings had been falsely ascribed to old masters. He tried his best to distinguish the real from the fake, but in his zeal to sell, he often overplayed a work's authenticity. What mattered to him was that the buyer believed that he had bought a Dürer, and the Duveen himself convinced everyone of his expertness through his air of irreproachable authority. Thus, it is important to be able to play the professor when necessary and never impose such an attitude for its own sake. So that's Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. And again, the interesting part of this chapter is the whole idea of spending your life looking for marks. Again, this might be tactics that are good for highbrow art dealers, for foreign ministers, and the like, but for the average butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, it seems like a rather poor excuse or poor way of living one's life. On Saturday is going to be Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you are weaker, never fight for honor's sake. Choose surrender instead. Surrender gives you time to recover, time to torment and irritate your conqueror, time to wait for his power to wane. Do not give him the satisfaction of fighting and defeating you. Surrender first. By turning the other cheek, you infuriate and unsettle him. Make surrender a tool of power. And that's going to be on this Saturday, the 22nd. So we will see you then, and until then, have a great Thursday and a great Friday.